Now, many things are changing for African women, especially in the areas of women's rights. But much has also remained the same concerning domestic violence and property rights. Now, women lawyers are determined to use their expertise to make a change. Human rights defenders in their countries, these women have committed to ensuring that laws that are supposed to protect women are respected and enforced. They came to Washington to attain advanced degrees from the Georgetown University Law Center's 14-month Leadership and Advocacy for Women in Africa program, or LAWA. The program trains them to be better advocates for their counterparts. Each defender got a chance to speak at a recent congressional briefing.
I want to say I've experienced violence in all its forms. I am a single mother. I dropped out of secondary school. I had my first child at 18. And for us, Africa, you know what it means.
Elizabeth Enaka of Cameroon says there's a misconception that domestic violence affects only poor and illiterate women.
Do you know that educated women are most violated? Civil servants, women in high-ranking positions. If you see a woman with a blotted eye, when you ask her what happened to your eye, she'll tell you, I fell. It's because she's ashamed to talk about violence.
While domestic violence is being reported, including against men, advocates say the stigma that it carries keeps it taboo and underreported. Mary Ajoot of Uganda adds that reporting such violations to the police is often frowned upon because many see it as a private family matter sanctioned by tradition, as in the case of dowry, or as she puts it, bride price.
The notion of dowry has been abused. Originally, in the traditional community, it was meant to be a gift, and it was the man or the family of a man to determine what they have to give to the wife's family. But today, it is instead the wife's family to demand the amount, which has led to abuse of women's rights. The woman actually is rendered as a possession.
Issues of land rights and inheritance are also legal challenges these advocates say they want to see women in Africa overcome. Nigeria's Evelyn Ebubechukwu says that the heart of this issue is the clash between traditional and customary law, like in parts of her country, namely Niger Delta and southeastern parts.
The patriarchal system that is prevalent under our customary laws, women are seen as property and object of inheritance. Therefore, as property, they cannot inherit, as property cannot inherit property.
Vera Nkwate Ngassa of Cameroon says democracy and the rule of law can never prevail when women are discriminated against. Currently a judge in Cameroon and the subject of a 2005 documentary called Sisters in Law, Nkwate Ngassa says the fact that women in Cameroon do the bulk of the farm work but own less than 10% of the land contributes to their abuse.
A 2005 study by the United Nations shows that land denial is economic abuse, which also amounts to domestic abuse. And indeed, a 2008 study shows that women who hold land are better able to protect themselves from violence, and they are even able to negotiate safe sex in the context of HIV and AIDS.
Making the laws work for women, especially in societies that are patriarchal and bound by customs, is a big challenge, say the lawyers. Luwan Zenebe of Ethiopia, an advocate for fair compensation for divorced women, who she says are often left empty-handed, says the task is not hopeless.
It might be difficult, but we shouldn't just leave it out there just because it's difficult. The courts are adjudicating similar cases in other cases, like 12 cases.
Kenya's Kavinga Makau says it is also important to have more women parliamentarians and politicians who can shape national policy on women's rights and ensure that they're enforced.
I think the space is definitely opening up, and that is a good thing, but still the numbers are very limited and the numbers need to be increased.
But what can victims of violence expect as a form of justice? Ethiopia's Sophia Gebrehawat says too often emphasis is on punishing the perpetrator with little benefit to the victim. So she's advocating for restorative justice, in her case for children forced into early marriages.
The restorative justice system revolves around the victim and try to find a solution for restoring, for accommodating the interests of the victim. It's about giving voice to the victim.
All the LAWA Fellows have graduated now from the Georgetown program and can do a 3 to 6 month internship in the U.S. before returning to their countries. Now joining us for more discussion on women's rights in Africa is Vera Nkwate Ngassa, a LAWA Fellow from Cameroon. Ms. Ngassa, thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome, Indy. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Well, some would ask, you've had more than 20 plus years experience as a prosecutor and currently you're a judge. Yet here you are, a student again at LAWA Fellow at Georgetown University. What did you feel you could still learn after all the experience you've had?
Oh, plenty. Knowledge is power, and it's always relevant. And the last time I was in a classroom was 26 years ago, and the kind of law we had then is not the same now. So I did have a lot to learn, and indeed the Georgetown program was so rich that I wanted it to continue for even 3 years.
So now that you've completed that program, you're going back, you address the issue of land rights, women's rights in general. We heard your other colleagues there talking about domestic violence and how it's still such a big problem. Why is it not changing when there's so many advocates, yourselves included, and there are laws on the books to supposedly protect women?
Well, it is changing to a large extent. But the reason why problems persist is because the laws change, but people don't. So after the laws change, then you have to get the people incrementally to, shift focus and shift paradigm in line with the law.
And when we're talking about people, are we talking about the males in the society? Who needs to change?
Everyone. Strangely enough, everyone. Yes, the men have their attitudes, but in Africa and in Cameroon in particular, the people who instill and maintain the customs are women. Like I always tell them, I have never seen a male performing widowhood rituals on a woman. It is the women who perform widowhood rituals on other widows. So everyone needs to change, from the old men to the young men, through the older women and to the younger women.
I want to turn a little bit to the documentary that we just mentioned briefly in the package we ran. But before that, I want to run a short clip and raise a point that you made, which I felt was very poignant.
Okay.
This your daughter has become a merchandise. The way you people play in the village, the way you play with women and children, that's what makes her his wife. 80,000 francs and some pig.
What was the reaction to that?
Interestingly enough, the people accepted what I said and they were ready to change. Part of our problem with human rights is legal illiteracy. Most people do things out of ignorance, not really out of wickedness. And so if you take time to teach them and you have the patience to insist, they eventually learn.
But now that is also a real classic example of the clash between customary law, or what is customarily practiced, and more modern contemporary law, which is what is practiced in the courtrooms, which really a lot of people have a problem with.
Yeah, see, there shouldn't be any clash between custom and law, because statutory law is clear. Our high court laws in Cameroon, for instance, say that we may apply customs insofar as they are not repugnant to natural justice, equity, good conscience, or contrary to the written law. So we kind of sort out the good customs and let them be, and the customs that clash with the laws are those that we go after or we go against.
Well, thank you so much. I'm hoping that being a judge, you're really empowered to do more for the women in Cameroon and Africa as a whole.
I hope so too.
Yes, that's Ms. Ngassa, Nkwate Ngassa, who is a LAWA Fellow from Cameroon. And also I want to credit Kim Longi Loto for the video we showed on Sisters in Law, the video.